Donald Trump is taking new steps to bring a controversial figure back into the fold. His 2016 presidential campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, a convicted felon who was later pardoned by then-President Trump.
In any other world, the president bringing back a former campaign chairman who had just gotten out of prison, bringing him back again after he got out of prison would be crazy pants. But in Trump Republican politics, hey, I mean, get in line. It wasn't just Trump's campaign chairman who went to prison. Trump's campaign vice chairman, Trump advisor and campaign aide, Trump White House national security advisor. You sign up for the Trump campaign, they ask you what size should they make your jumpsuit.
You know me by now, I usually try to open with some sarcastic, satirical Scottish remark. A satirical remark, if you may.
You've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
God, that was terrible. Watching this, I just can't help but go straight to the point. Imagine if just one current member of Biden's staff was sentenced to prison, let alone how many?
Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, was charged with wire fraud and money laundering. He's been sentenced to prison pending appeal for defying a subpoena. Two Trump lawyers, Kenneth Chesbrough and Sidney Powell.
After this week's bombshell announcement that Trump was unable to obtain funds to meet his bond despite he and his gaggle of Looney Tune lawyers claiming that he had money coming out of ketchup bottles.
Oh, by looking at his statements of financial condition, that this guy is worth a lot of money, billions and billions of billions of dollars. And that didn't even include his brand, Martha.
Billions and billions and billions of dollars.
For the $464 million fraud judgment against him in that civil fraud case. Trump's lawyers write in a recent filing here that getting the judgment's full amount in a bond is a practical impossibility. They say they have tried to approach about 30 surety companies through 4 separate brokers and cannot get a bond for this amount.
I know, I can't quite believe that he doesn't have racks on racks after all these monumental products he tried to sell.
He enjoys steaks of this quality in one of my resort restaurants or America's finest steakhouses, but now that's changed. Today, through the Shopper Image, you can enjoy the world's greatest steaks in your own home with family, friends, any... So what do you think of my Trump Home Mattress Collection by Serta? Finally, the same luxury and comfort I demand in my hotels.
Oh, they'll never count sheep again.
My suits will guarantee you're always boardroom ready. Two, the new collection features incredible artwork of me as a rock star and also as a monster trucker. People love to collect baseball cards, but why settle for that when you can collect the greatest trading card in history, like Trump digital trading cards?
But it was then announced that Trump was poised to bring back convicted felon Paul Manafort. As you may remember, the former campaign manager who Donald Trump pardoned, of course, was convicted on federal tax evasion and bank fraud as part of Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference back in 2016.
That this is all being done at mostly the request of the former president, who has said time and time again he wants to bring Manafort back in, that he really likes Manafort. Is there a role for Paul Manafort?
Well, according to the Washington Post, he's expected to be given a new role on Trump's 2024 campaign as an advisor later this year.
Been more desperately in need of money than he is right this second today. The day it is reported that this guy, for all his baggage, for all his ex-con sparkle, this guy is coming back. The guy who specializes in extracting money from Kremlin-aligned interests to serve Vladimir Putin's long-term goals. I wonder why today, of all days, is the day we learn that Paul Manafort is coming back.
Apparently, the GOP presumptive nominee told advisors that he feels loyal to Manafort because, well, Manafort served time in prison and because he's continued to say nice things about Trump both in public and private. So clearly Trump figures, why not risk another jumpsuit for the empty suit?
In any other world, the president bringing back a former campaign chairman who had just gotten out of prison, bringing him back again after he got out of prison would be crazy pants. But in Trump Republican politics, hey, I mean, get in line.
And while reporting on this, MSNBC host Rachel Maddow used her time to remind viewers that Manafort is not an anomaly. In fact, he's part of a laundry list of Trump staffers who've had run-ins with the law.
It wasn't just Trump's campaign chairman who went to prison. Trump's campaign vice chairman, Rick Gates was also charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. Trump advisor and campaign aide Roger Stone was charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. Trump White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was charged and convicted. Trump's campaign advisor George Papadopoulos was charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. The Trump Organization's CFO Alan Weisselberg was charged and convicted and sentenced to prison. Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon was charged with wire fraud and money laundering. He's been sentenced to prison pending appeal for defying a subpoena. Trump's business was itself found guilty of tax fraud. Two Trump lawyers, Kenneth Chesbrough and Sidney Powell, have pled guilty to election-related crimes. And now tomorrow, another one of Trump's White House advisors, Peter Navarro, is due to report to start serving his sentence in federal prison. So it's not like Manafort's the only one in stripes, right? That's how these guys roll. You sign up for the Trump campaign, they ask you what size should they make your jumpsuit.
When you take into consideration the endless hours Republicans spent trying to frame Biden for his own son breaking the law in the past, a son that has never been in office, may I add, you just can't help but bask in the monumental hypocrisy at play.
I mean, the case has been cracked, guys. We're just missing the one document the FBI is hiding.
So that's essentially where we are. Again, I'm restating my call to Chairman Comer, to Speaker Johnson, to fold up the tent to this circus show. It's really over at this point.
Party of law and order who scream about supporting law enforcement while demonizing the FBI, calling for them to be defunded, and portraying the January 6 criminals who attacked law enforcement as the victims, calling them hostages.
My reaction to that is then if those people are hostages and political prisoners, then who are we, the police officer, according to them, that defended the Capitol on that day? Then who are we? It's very disappointing that something like that is coming from the party that says that they support the law enforcement community, somebody who respects the law and order, the rule of law. There's no support. There's no way that they could tell me as a former police officer, somebody who defended them, including those political elected officials, that they support me and my fellow officers, because they don't. It doesn't comport with what they're saying publicly and privately.
Would have such a malleable moral red line regarding criminals in office. That's when they're not working with criminals, of course, to try and smear the current president.
But this is the path that they've chosen to take. And honestly, I'm surprised that they have this high of a threshold for humiliation. Every witness that they have called has decimated their arguments, from Devin Archer to Peter Schwerin to Marvin Young. And then we have the guy behind the Holy Grail document, the 1023, Alexander Smirnov, who's found that he had lied, right, about the charges, the $5 million that went to both of them. And then it gets even better. Not only did he lie, he was lying because the Russians were feeding him the disinformation. It's so embarrassing. I think Jamie Raskin was spot on when he said that this impeachment inquiry really ended yesterday when we found out that we have a Russian asset that was foundational to this impeachment inquiry. And Jim Comer and Jim Jordan should maybe try doing something for their constituents and let this go, because it's going nowhere.
With all this as context, I'm as surprised at Trump bringing back a man convicted of tax evasion to help him possibly raise capital as I would be to find out that Lara Trump's singing career failed to flourish outside the four walls of a family karaoke night. That was gold.
It's really sad because this is the kind of treatment.
You just can't make this up. I mean, you really can't.
Yeah. Well, but this is the kind of treatment that I think conservatives are used to. We're used to being censored. We're used to being shadow banned, which certainly I already know my song was shadow banned. So many people told me on Apple Music, on Spotify, on Amazon Music, they wouldn't put my song on the radio because it was too political.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.